Sir, may we ask you to start the discussion from the point we left off today. Yesterday. Sorry. And lay before us the landscape which you see in terms of the future of man and the problem which man faces, the acuteness of the problem and crisis which man faces, and what lies at the matrix of the human mind which makes it impossible for him to break free.
May I begin by stating I am not a traditionalist. I haven't read any of the sacred books, Upanishads, Gita, all the rest of it. But I've talked to a great many scientists, philosophers, psychologists, psychiatrists, and so on. So first, what's the future of man? The computer can outthink man, learn faster than man, record much more extensively than man. It can learn, unlearn, correct itself according to what has been programmed. And mathematicians, the so-called well-known mathematicians, have programmed the computer, and the computer came up with two new theorems which the mathematicians hadn't even thought of. These are all facts. I'm not inventing them. And the present computer can program other computers, and so keep going, increasing, learning more. And they are thinking of the ultimate intelligent machine, UTM, it's called. And so, what is the future of man? When everything that man has done or will do, the computer can outdo him. Of course, it cannot compose Beethoven, but it'll come approximately to him. Or it cannot. See the beauty of the Orion, the constellation Orion, or the evening star by itself lonely in the sky. But it can create new Vedanta, new philosophy, new gods, and so on. These are all facts actually taking place now. And as we saw a film of a robot, a computer robot, putting together a motor, a Honda in Japan. When the robot doesn't do it properly, the computer stops the machine, tells the robot what to do, and they start it over. This is happening. Please don't say it's in the future. In about 10 years or more or less, the whole problem of so-called mechanical intelligence will outdo man. So that is what, and what is then is man. Either he is entertained. As you know, the world of sport, football has become the king. Football has become the gods. And the priests are the players. Do we do? What do we do? We are saying that the future of the man, of mankind, is either seek entertainment, enter more and more into the world of sports, or religious entertainments. That's one line. And the other is either go inwards, because the brain is infinite. It has got immense capacity. Not the capacity of specialization, not the capacity of knowledge. It has other kind of capacity, infinite. So either this is the future of mankind. Some of the MIT in Boston, they have agreed to this. They are concerned about the future of man. What's going to happen to it when the whole computer is going to take charge of the whole thing of man? So what is the future? The brain is occupied now, so it's active. And when that brain is not active, it's going to wither. And the machine is going to operate. So are we all going to become zombies? Lose our extraordinary inward capacity, or become superficially intellectual, seeking the world of entertainment? I do not know if you have noticed. More and more time on the television is given to sport, especially in Europe. So that is the future of man. And the future of man may depend on the atom bomb, the neutron bomb. And in the East, in India, and in the East, war is very far away. But if you live in Europe, they are tremendously concerned about the bomb. War is very close to them. Here it's just a theory. There, I've talked to both very young people, old people, who have been through the last war. They are terrified. There was a demonstration in London of 150,000 people marching, which is never heard of, as in Germany. So there is that threat, war and computer. So what is the future of man? Either he goes very deeply inwardly, not through the traditional idea of inwardness, but actually delve into the depth of his mind, into the depth of his heart. Or he'll be entertained. So freedom of choice, freedom from dictatorship, freedom from chaos, that's the problem also. In the world, if you'll forgive me my pointing out, if you already know, there is great disturbance, corruption. People are very, very disturbed, dangerous to walk in the streets. So, when we're talking about freedom from fear, we want outward freedom. Freedom that is bringing about chaos, anarchy, or dictatorship. So we want outward freedom. But we never regard or go into if there is inner freedom at all, freedom of the mind. Is that freedom actual or theoretical? We regard the state as an impediment to freedom. The communists, the totalitarian people, they say there is no such thing as freedom. The state government is the only authority, and they are suppressing every form of freedom. Perhaps some of you may have discussed with those people who have left Russia, and you ought to hear their terrible things that are happening there. So what kind of freedom do we want? Out there, outside of us, or inward freedom? You may have, as it's happening in Russia, in Eastern Europe, they are being denied freedom altogether. Conformity through threat, reward, punishment. In the West and the Eastern world, there is still freedom. To sit like that indicates freedom. You cannot do this in Poland. Only 3 people can meet. So, when we talk about freedom, is it the freedom of choice between this government, that government, going from here to there and so on, so on. Or an inward freedom. The psyche always conquers the outer. That's all. The psyche, that is the inward structure of man, his thought, his emotions, his ambitions, his greed, that always conquers the outer, as it is shown in Russia, where at the beginning they said the state will wither, there will be no army, etc., etc. And the inward state, inward structure of the mind conquered the outer. Now you have the elite who have everything they want in Russia. Special food, special clothes, special shops. So, where do we seek freedom? Could we discuss that? Can there be freedom from nationality inwardly, which gives us a sense of security? Freedom from all the superstitions, nonsense of all religions. That word religion, the intellectuals throughout the world spit on that word politely. But civilizations, new civilizations, can only come about through real religion, not the superstitious, dogmatic, traditional religions. I've said my share.
In the world of the outer, when the world of the inner is not participating in the movement of freedom. That is, without knowing whether the mind is free or in bondage. Is there a choice possible in the outer?
How can a confused mind choose?
That's, I think, something which would bear discussion.
That's, please.
Is it possible for a mind which is unexplored to make a choice in the outer?
Obviously not.
And
that's for discussion.
This is.
Sir, you spoke about computers and the possibility of the human brain withering away from lack of activity. Do you then foresee the possibility of man becoming extinct and being replaced by a non-biological trend in evolution?
Perhaps.
Now,
but sir, my point is we must take things as they are and see if we can't bring about a mutation in our brains itself. That's the point.
What can we do, sir, to prevent this from happening?
Let's discuss it.
I would like to ask you a little more about freedom, and the mind in bondage. All I can think of, and I'd like your reactions to it, is only relative freedom. That these complete distinctions between inner, outer, freedom, bondage, they somehow confuse me. That what is really meant. For example, yesterday we were saying about grief and aggression all being part of man. Well, to me that makes man human. In fact, that's what makes him distinct from the computers which you were talking of this morning, that is as much a part of being human as the desire for transformation or desire of getting rid of them. So I'd like to know a little more about this freedom. Is it relative freedom? Does it mean all the emotions you are talking of, that what does one do with them? That somewhere I think there are boundaries set by those emotions, and to try to transcend them is maybe trying to transcend humanity itself or humanness.
So, one of the points that was raised was, can the human mind, which has lived in fear for so many million centuries, can that freedom end? Inward fear first. Can it possibly come to an end? Or are we going to continue with it for the rest?
Sir, if I may point out, what Dr. Kakkar said was that it is these very elements of fear, envy, anger, aggression, fear, envy, anger, aggression, which make up humanness. What is your response to that?
Is love emotion, which is sensation?
Sir, you are speaking in the form of a koan practically. You move away from fear and aggression and bring in another state altogether.
All right,
but let us answer this particular thing.
Which question?
The question is that fear, anger, hatred, all the anxiety are part of the humanness of man.
Is it?
Now that's what
we accept it as the human nature of man. We are used to that. Our ancestors and present and future generations are put up with this, and we accept that as the condition of man that indicates humanity. I question that. Human being may be entirely different.
If you question it, then you must be able to show what is it that makes it possible to quench these elements, and so that the humanness which you speak about can flower totally.
We'll go into that.
Now, how is it possible?
We'll go into that. Is that what we want to discuss?
It also means that there can be no such thing as freedom unless you have quenched these elements.
Yes, sir. As long as I am attached to some conclusion, to some concept, to some ideal, there is no freedom. So should we discuss this?
This is after all the core of the whole problem of mankind.
May I strengthen the question further by suggesting that in the statement or the question which Dr. Kakkar asked, there is implied another concept of freedom, where you get freedom not by getting rid of fear, anxiety, greed, and so on and so forth, but you get freedom by integrating them within a large, by incorporating them within a larger whole where they make sense.
That is integrating the opposites. Is that it?
Pardon me?
Integrating the opposites.
Integrating in a larger awareness or consciousness, if you like.
Do you mean learning to successfully cope up with them and still
Yes.
Getting along like
Make a creative use of it. I mean, yesterday there was a very interesting dialogue, which I might remind you because you were, and you were not here in any case. Ravi Mathai suggested, or was describing a man who, according to me, I mean, if I can translate it in this language, got his freedom not by widening his choices, but by reducing his choices.
by
By reducing his choices. That is
Reducing the choices. That is by eliminating choice, eliminating wants. It comes to that. Eliminating choices, eliminating
who is
wants.
eliminating it?
the person.
Huh?
The person.
What?
A person.
Who is that person?
Well, it was described yesterday.
Huh?
It was described yesterday. I mean,
I know. But I'm questioning, who is the person who eliminates all this? Who integrates all this?
You see, this is really the basic point. As long as you're talking of acting on these things, you posit a
separate.
center individual who can choose, eliminate, add, put together.
Yes, yes, yes.
May I just elaborate on that so that my feeling is that not you, but that there are two kinds of things, that the things we have mentioned about fear, envy, greed, which I feel is as much a part of humanness, but the other one also, the desire of transformation, of desire of eliminating them, is also part of humanness. That both are part of humanness, but to take one only, the desire of elimination or quenching or getting into another state, is to me leaving out this other part, and this has a very important for the strategy then, because my strategy, if I believe that greed, envy, fear are part of humanness, that's what makes man man, is then how to not only to learn to live with them, how to make friends with them, and yes, and use them, and see that the fears are not really that great, but they always will be there, but they are not as great as you thought. The greed is not really that frightening. To get the fear reduced, lessened, and used. This would be then the strategy. The other strategy, of course, which I will be waiting for you to, but this is the question which would remain.
Dr. Kakkar is right, sir, that you cannot take only the dark elements in man. It is the same center which talks of transformation, which talks of the good, which talks of all the elements which are today considered the opposite. The total thing makes up man, the dark and the light. Now, is it possible to integrate the dark and the light? And who integrates?
Yeah.
So the problem is really the central one. That is there an entity who can choose, integrate, choose one against the other? That's the central point.
Could I ask, sir, why is there this division between the dark, the light, beauty, ugly, right?
I agree with you, sir, there isn't.
No, I not agree.
And
Why is there in human beings this contradiction? Oh,
That involves contradiction. Birth involves death.
no. You see the way. So you consider life a contradiction and a conflict.
Outcome of contradiction. Outcome of contradiction.
Yes,
How
that
can
is,
it be
contradiction
otherwise?
implies conflict.
Yes.
So life is an endless conflict.
But conflict which has a possibility of resolution which might create further conflict.
I mean,
Yes.
so that's what we are asking you, madam. You reduce life to perpetual conflict.
The life as we know it,
As we know it, we have accepted life to be a conflict. That may be our habit, our tradition, our education, our conditioning.
Sir, my difficulty is that my tool of getting this awareness is also my own mind, which is sum total of all that, which is conditioned by what has gone by. And from that point only I have to start
So,
reacting to today.
yeah, we start with the human condition. Right? Some say it's impossible to change that condition. You can modify it. Or the existentialists say that. You cannot possibly uncondition man. Right? Therefore, he must live perpetually in conflict. We are contradicting all that, that's all. I may be wrong.
So I would like to answer your question of the conflict parts, since you asked me. I can only give what I feel, that there are two conditions why that conflict is, and that is part of what evolution has created, which is human growth and development. And there are two conflicts which are inescapable for everyone, which started right at the beginning. One is the separation from where the beginning, one is together, the awareness of I am different from my parents' mother. This is a part of human evolution. And the second one is when the differentiation, when one learns the sex differentiation, I am male, the other one is female. And these are part of human evolution, and these are the basis of contradictions, of the differences. And they, I feel, are inescapable. These are the basic two anxieties which are inescapable in human.
So, what is integrity?
Trying to get them together again and never succeeding.
Can you see, that's it. Can you bring the two opposites together? Or there is no opposite at all? I mean, just, may I go into it? I'm violent. Human beings are violent. That is a fact. Non-violence is not a fact. Why do we indulge in non-fact? Violence is what is. The other is not. But all your leaders, philosophers, have tried to cultivate non-violence. Which means what? During the cultivation of non-violence, I am being violent. Right? So, non-violence can never be. There is only violence. Why do the mind, create the opposite? As a lever to escape from violence? Right? So why can't I deal only with violence and not be concerned with the non-fact? So there is only violence. The other is merely an escape from this fact. Right? So there is only what is, not what should be. So, ideals, concepts, all that go. So, to come back to what we're talking, whether the human mind can be free from fear, not relative fear, but totally.
Sir, you must carry this point a little further to make sense. When you say that non-violence is only an idea and violence is the fact, then the inquiry must logically proceed a step further and say, can violence end?
Surely.
Unless we pursue the inquiry in that direction, merely to say that non-violence is an idea takes away from me the path which I think I ought to take without giving me the slightest clue to where I ought to proceed.
I understand, sir. I didn't know you want to take that particular point and pursue it to the end.
A little further.
You don't have to salute me, sir. What is violence? Conformity is violence. Imitation is violence. Right, sir? What do I call violence? Angry, hate, hitting another, killing another, for an ideal, for a concept, for a word, peace, and so on. And is violence an idea or a fact? No, I proceed, sir. I want to discuss this. So it's not an idea. When I get angry, it's a fact. Now, why do I call it violence? Why do I give it a name? I give a name to a reaction which is called violence. Why do I do that? There's a squirrel on the roof. Why do I name? You follow my questions? Is it for the purposes of recognition? Thereby strengthening the present reaction. Of course. Am I? Huh? I'm asking you. So, present reaction is caught up in the past remembrance. Right? And the past remembrance I have named as violence. Right? I don't know if you're following me.
मुझे महामहोपाध्याय गोपीनाथ कविराज की समीपता मिली थी।
एक बार फिर बोलिए।
महामहोपाध्याय पंडित गोपीनाथ कविराज की समीपता मिली थी। उधर करीब 1950 के नज़दीक, 1950 के नज़दीक करीब 10-15 वर्ष इस देश में ऐसे बड़े चिंतक और योगियों की बात हो रही थी। उन लोगों का कहना यह था कि जिस तरह से ये जगत चल रहा है यह अब चलेगा नहीं। उनके शब्द में यह सृष्टि बदल जाएगी, जिसमें पराधीनता नहीं रहेगी, पूर्ण स्वतंत्रता रहेगी। उसको एक शब्द से वो लोग कहते थे, श्री अरविंद से लेकर कविराज जी या और 4-5 उस समय देश में थे, वो लोग कहते थे कि चिन्मय सृष्टि होगी, जिसमें भूख, प्यास, इच्छा, आकांक्षाएं सभी जो परिचित इस समय हैं वह नहीं रह जाएगी। ऐसा उनका कहना था। और वो लोग इस तरफ भी जा रहे थे, कह रहे थे कि हम बता सकते हैं कि यह सृष्टि कब आएगी। उस पर और विचारकों ने जब विचार किया तो स्वीकार नहीं किया। यह कहा गया कि जब तक कि द्वंद्व नहीं रहेंगे तब तक मनुष्य, उस समय मनुष्य रहेगा नहीं। इसलिए द्वंद्व रहेगा, मानव जीवन के साथ लगा है द्वंद्व। तो द्वंद्वों के बीच में निर्णय लेना चाहिए कि स्वतंत्रता का अर्थ क्या है, नीति का अर्थ क्या है, इसका द्वंद्वों के बीच लेना चाहिए। मेरा इस स्थिति को स्वीकार करके कि द्वंद्वों के बीच में ही हमें सोचना चाहिए, वो ये है कि सारे परिवर्तनों के बीच मनुष्य परेशान रहेगा। जो उसकी परेशानी है उसमें वह व्यक्ति भी शामिल है जो देख रहा है परेशानी अपनी और संपूर्ण की। यह जो देख रहा है दूसरे की परेशानी, जिसको एक शब्द से कहा जा सकता है दुख, दूसरे का दुख देख रहा है, अपने दुख, अपने द्वंद्वों के बीच में जैसे वह परेशान है वैसे संपूर्ण को देख रहा है। तो यह जो देखना है, दुखता का जो साक्षात्कार है, इसी तथ्य में से सारी स्वतंत्रता कि हम इस दुख का निवारण करेंगे। मेरा यह कार्यक्रम है, यह योजना है कि मैं दुख का निवारण करूंगा। मैं समझता हूं कि यह एक तथ्यात्मक द्वंद्व को स्वीकार करते हुए दुखता का जो साक्षात्कार है और उस दुखता के निवारण के लिए जो पुरुषार्थ है, इसी के अंदर मानव स्वतंत्रता सन्निहित है।
I'll try. He began by stating that he had had the privilege of being closely associated with Mahamopadhyaya Kaviraj Gopinath. And perhaps most of you are associated or acquainted with this name, but otherwise the reputation of Mahamopadhyaya Kaviraj Gopinath is that
in traditional terms, sir, merely, I'm speaking now traditional language, that this was a unique combination of both a intellectual as also a bhakt, that is a jnani and a bhakt, and one of the greatest scholars of both Tantrism and Vaishnavism. Then he went on to say that during the 50s there were 4 or 5 major thinkers in India, and all of them were of the view that a new type of creation, again the word shrishti here is more important, because when you, the Sanskrit word that he uses here, shrishti, that the nature of the organism of the universe will change, let's put it like that, that this is what their view was. His next statement was that this view was very seriously challenged by other people, and they did not think that a new type of a universe would be created or it would come into being. To that, he himself has said that the other view, and what was then finally accepted, finally, I don't know, was that conflict is inherent.
Inherent.
Inherent. Conflict is inherent, and that the choices have to be made within that area of conflict. And this was the nature of creation, or man's freedom was a matter of how he operates within this area of conflict or looking at conflict. From that point, he moved to another point, and that was that there is someone, he used the word vyakti, that is an individual translated into English, but that it is this, or in Pupulben's language, the center. This was someone who was looking. Who was this someone who was looking? And the moment of the looking and the concentration or the awareness was that moment of pain, dukh. And that in that, the manner in which the freedom could be manifested is the manner in which the relationship with dukh could be established. It is not, he is not posing that this is a quenching or a transcendence of dukh, but that
मैं इसे इस तरह से स्पष्ट कर रहा हूँ कि व्यक्ति दुखी है, अपने चारों तरफ जो परिस्थितियाँ बदल रही हैं उसमें जो परेशानियाँ देख रहा है, जिसका कि एक स्वयं अंग है और चारों तरफ देख रहा है, यह एक तथ्य है, यह कल्पना नहीं है, वह अहिंसा नीति है या हिंसा है, यह प्रश्न नहीं है, यह एक तथ्य है कि वह परेशान है और उसका चारों तरफ परेशान है। इस तथ्य को देखना, इसको जब वह देखता है तो उसमें से यह कर्तव्य निकलता है, यह पुरुषार्थ निकलता है, यह व्यक्ति की सृजनशीलता और स्वतंत्रता निकलती है कि वह दुख को का प्रत्यक्ष, विराट दुख का प्रत्यक्ष करके उस दुख को हटाने के लिए अपने सारे पुरुषार्थ, सारी सृजनशीलता को लगा दे। यही मनुष्य की स्वतंत्रता है और यह द्वंद्वों के बीच में ही उसकी स्वतंत्रता का विकास संभव है।
बहुत सुंदर, बहुत सुंदर।
His reaction was very beautiful, I'll try. And he said that the individual looks at, observes pain, not only observes
the presence of sorrow,
the presence of
sorrow and suffering, the presence of sorrow,
and he observes it. आप करिए ना, आप करिए.
He was making the one. You would pardon me. Panditji did not at any stage use the word conflict. As you said, conflict is inherent. He did not use the word conflict at any stage. He was making the point that those who differed in both those views, they said there is a purpose for man's existence, and that purpose has to be recognized and discovered within the context of the duality which is inherent in man, duality. And that duality need not necessarily exist in the form of a conflict or a contradiction. There is duality, and that is part and parcel of the human nature, not of the whole of man's nature maybe, but part and parcel of the human nature. And it is within this context of duality that man has to evolve his freedom, find his freedom. And how? He said, precisely in this way, by recognizing life to be what it is, namely the presence of pain and suffering and sorrow in life, and beginning to feel the presence of this sorrow, pain and suffering in his fellow beings and in all creatures, and thus by thus feeling and experiencing this presence of sorrow, pain and suffering in others, throwing up a sublime reaction wherein he is urged that I cannot live allowing this sorrow and pain to exist in my own fellow beings. I have to make my life a process of doing something to ameliorate it, to mitigate it, to remove it if possible. And it is in this way he has to find his freedom.
If I may point out, one moment, Sir Swamiji.
कहना चाहता हूँ एक मिनट कि आपने ठीक कहा, लेकिन थोड़ा सा उसमें हम परिवर्तन करना चाहते हैं कि आपके कहने से कुछ वेदांत माने द्वंद्वातीत के तरफ
नहीं
बात जा रही है। मैं अपनी परेशानी
मैं कोशिश करके द्वंद्वातीत की तरफ नहीं गया हूँ।
हाँ, तो
डुअलिटी की बात को मेरा ख्याल नहीं कर रहा है।
हाँ जी, हाँ, मैं तो एकदम डायलेक्टिक्स कह सकते हैं। मैं तो एकदम जागतिक लौकिक
सेमेंटिक्स
मैं तो एकदम लौकिक बात, जागतिक बात कह रहा हूँ कि यह जो आदमी है ये द्वंद्वों का पुतला है, द्वंद्वातीत नहीं है।
नहीं, मैं इसी भूमिका में बात करता हूँ।
जी हाँ, द्वंद्वातीत यह नहीं है और इसका पुरुषार्थ भी द्वंद्वातीत नहीं।
द्वंद्व में रह करके करने
ये
का,
द्वंद्व के अंदर ही यह सारा पुरुषार्थ है और वह दुखता के साक्षात्कार में है और उसके निवारण में है। बहुत ही संक्षेप में इतना ही है, 2-4 वाक्य में ही है।
मेरे ख्याल में यही बोला। I think I was saying within the context of this duality, he has to evolve.
She is much better than me. I can't excel her.
मैं अगर निवेदन ये करूं हिंदी में पहले कि इसमें जो आपने एक शब्द में कहा कि ये एक्सपर्ट्स की बात है और पीछे से मैंने आवाज़ सुनी सिमेंटिक्स का प्रॉब्लम है, ये बात सही है, क्योंकि भारतीय भाषाओं में इन सब शब्दों के पीछे अगर मैं किसी और परिवेश में इनका अनुवाद कर रही होती तो मैं शायद या डायलेक्टिक्स या द्वंद्व को उस तरह से उसका अनुवाद करती।
आपने संघर्ष किया?
जी हाँ, मैंने द्वंद्व को संघर्ष के रूप में इसलिए उसका अनुवाद किया क्योंकि जिस तरह की यहाँ पर विवाद हो रहा था और जिस मैं और वह की बात के संदर्भ में उसका हो रहा था, वहाँ पर मैंने वो किया।
सुख और दुख की उपस्थिति संघर्षात्मक नहीं है,
ऑपोजिट्स की बात है ना,
ऑपोजिट्स का, लेकिन संघर्षात्मक नहीं है।
तो ऑपोजिट्स में ले लीजिए उसको। आई थिंक दैट इफ इट इज बेटर इन दिस काइंड ऑफ इफ दिस विल मीट द सिचुएशन, ऑपोजिट्स, that the capacity to live in this. So his point was that it is in knowing, may I use the word knowing instead of experiencing,
becoming
knowing
aware.
And being aware and seeing, observing is the word that I had used, observing the presence of pain and sorrow and suffering around and
responding to it.
How could you? And my freedom lies in the seeing.
If I may translate, Panditji, I would say that he said that in the seeing of the play of sorrow, pain, the whole situation is held in that observation.
And in seeking to do something about it lies the freedom of man.
And the very seeing of it is the transcending of it.
That's what we have been talking
This is what he said.
I beg to differ.
I'm asking him.
पंडित जी, आपने ये कहा इसको देख करके इसके निवारण हेतु कुछ पुरुषार्थ करना,
ये
इसी में मानव का स्वतंत्रता है।
उसमें से पुरुषार्थ निकलता है जब मानवता है तो नहीं, कहीं से विश्वास से लाना नहीं है, कहीं से किसी गुरु के द्वारा नहीं है, यह एक तथ्य है,
इंसानियत,
उसमें से निकलता।
वो तथ्य को इंसानियत कह सकते हैं
ना, वो कुछ नहीं है, वह नाम द्वंद्वों के बीच में है और वह अपने को दुखी नहीं बनाना चाहता, दूसरों को दुखी नहीं रखना चाहता। यह एक तथ्य है, इस तथ्य में से कर्तव्य निकलता है, उसमें से स्वातंत्र निकलता है, उसमें से अधिकार निकलते हैं।
Sir, will you say something? Would you like to say something?
No, I just said we are just going out the.
No, so would you like to?
He is also making the point of freedom. He says the genesis of freedom lies in perceiving sorrow and try to do something about it.
Responding to it.
Responding,
not try.
Positively responding to it.
Not try.
Respond.
Sir, I'd like to go back to the question of what you had raised also yesterday, and this has come up repeatedly. On this center and the periphery, all this discussion assumes that there is a center which is perceiving and there is an outside which is being perceived. I like to, and this is something on which you have written and said a great, I'd like to get back to that point, because the moment he says that I perceive, and I perceive a sorrow which is outside myself, what is it? And that is what I'd like to ask.
You mean to say, who is it that is perceiving? If there is no such center, then about whose freedom are we discussing?
We'd like to
Sir, you asked a question about violence. We haven't finished with that. Right, sir?
Yes. I also discovered that violence is violating, that I was saying yes to you without understanding it, which I was doing violence also, I was violating myself.
may I make a request that when you are speaking on violence, we of course know of violence one does to another. Perhaps we may include in it violence, subjective violence that one does to oneself.
Yes, I was going to do that. So what is violence? Doing harm to another. Let's take that limited extent to that word. Semantically, let's both of you and I understand that hurting another physically and psychologically. Now, that hurting another psychologically may be persuading him by reward and punishment. That's violence. By making him conform to a pattern. By persuading him pleasantly, logically, affectionately to accept certain cadre, framework. All that is violence. Apparently that's inherent in man. Inherent according to the order. Don't let's use the word inherent. Man has this capacity.
Inveterate.
Right? Psychologically, inwardly. We'll call that violence. The intellectual world does it, enforcing their ideas, their concepts, their theories. So, all that's violence. Would you agree to that?
If we are using violence without any value connotation, yes.
No. Any form of persuasion, logical, illogical, reward, punishment, is violence.
It would mean all education is violent.
I don't come back to my education for the moment. Right, sir? So, is there a mind which cannot be persuaded, not obstinate? You see difference? A mind that sees very clearly, that's all. That's further point, I didn't want to, that's too much. So, can that violence come to an end? Why do you say no?
The question you asked, whether there's a mind which can be persuaded, my point is that the mind there is no such
Sir,
mind.
We are the result of persuasion, right? Every propaganda, religious, non-political, everything is persuading me, pressurizing, driving me into a certain direction.
So much of that persuasion has gone where it cannot be reached by us. It wears so many masks that those masks cannot be seen anymore, and that's why it's...
So, can we be free of violence? Can we let's take that word hate, can we be free of hate? Obviously, so we can.
Don't leave it there, sir.
Huh?
You can't leave it there.
I know I
if
can't.
you say obviously you can be free of hate, you're leaving it there. Either you take it.
I'm going to take it. Have we agreed to up to that point, sir? We'll go into it. Why? What is the raison d'être, the cause of hate? Why do you hate me when I say something which you don't like? Hate, you understand? Why do you push me aside when you being stronger, intellectually more powerful, etc., etc.? Why do I get hurt? Psychologically, what is the process of being hurt, which is part of violence? What is hurt? Who is hurt? The hurt is the image I have about myself. You come and tread on it. You come and put a pin on it, into it. I get hurt. So the image I have about myself is the cause of hurt. You say something to me, call me an idiot, and I think I'm not an idiot. You hurt me because I have an image of not being an idiot. Right?
Say the idiot and the image is hurt, it is not you who's hurting it. I have invented you also. I mean, we invent all others as we were inventing.
We're all the result of everybody else.
So it is not you who's hurting, but something which I have invented which is hurting you.
I think I'm a great man. Suppose. You come along and say, don't be silly. There must be greater men than you. I get hurt. Why? Obviously, I have created an image about myself being a great man. You come and say something contrary to that. I get hurt. You're not hurting me. You're hurting the image which is me. Right? The image which I have built about myself gets hurt. So the next question is, can I live without an image about myself? Right? Can you? What? And you see?
No, sir, I think the question I would like to ask is, where do I discover, in what dimension do I discover that I am making an image of myself? In where do I discover it?
What?
Where do I discover that I am making an image of myself?
I don't discover, I perceive.
Where?
When you get hurt, then you discover.
No. Where do I perceive it?
What do you mean, where?
There must be a...
Wait, you point out to me, just now, I have an image about myself.
Yeah.
I have never thought about it.
No.
Just a minute, let me finish. I've never thought about it. I've never seen that I have an image. You point it out. You make a statement.
No.
That just a minute, let me finish. Please follow what I'm saying. That I have an image. I am listening to you very carefully, attentively, and in that listening, I discover the fact that I have an image about myself. Or I see I have an image about myself.
I don't think I'm making myself clear. I don't see it as an abstraction.
No.
If I don't see it as an abstraction,
I don't see that.
Then that image-making machinery,
what?
That image-making machinery is the ground in which this is seen. Let me go into it a little. There is a ground in which from which the image-making machinery rises.
Why do you use the word ground?
Because talking and responding, there is a tendency to become conceptual, and so if you cut out the conceptual and go to the actual, then the actual is a process of perceiving.
That's all. No. Stop there. That's all.
No, I cannot stop there. I ask you further.
What?
I don't perceive it in your statement.
No.
Then where do I perceive it?
Perceive it as it is taking place in you.
Where?
Well, I don't understand where.
When you say it's taking place in you, where do you perceive it? Do you perceive it outside in my relationship?
I saw that squirrel walking across the parapet. I perceive it.
Yes.
I perceive the fact, the truth of the fact that I have an image.
This is something which is not...
It's very clear. Wait. You tell me I'm a liar. I know I have told a lie. Yes, I realize I'm a liar. There is no perception.
Is there such a thing? No, sir. There is such a thing as realizing I'm a liar and perceiving that I'm a liar. The two are different.
I have perceived that I'm a liar. I am aware. Let's use the word for the moment. I am aware that I'm a liar. Right? That's all. Huh?
Where does perception rest at that point?
Where does perception
rest at that point of perceiving that I'm a liar?
I don't quite follow what you mean.
Where does that perception rest? Where does it exist?
Where is it directed?
Where is it?
Directed.
Nowhere. Why should it be directed? I perceive, just me, I perceive. You've told me I'm a liar. It's a fact. I have lied, suppose. I have lied, that's a fact. What do you mean? Where do I perceive? It's a fact.
I would say, sir, I perceive it in the movement of my telling a lie, as thought.
No. I have perceived that I have lied in the past.
And so that arises in my mind, and I perceive that.
No, I perceive not that.
Then?
I perceive when I am lying.
That's exactly what I was trying to get to.
That's it.
You perceive when you are lying. So it's a state which is not an abstraction.
It's not?
An abstraction.
No, absolutely not.
It's a state which is a factual state.
Yes.
And at that instant of the factual state.
I am envious. Suppose I am envious, that's a fact.
But there's a great deal of difference.
What?
There's a great deal of difference in a discussion with you to say I am envious and to actually see envy moving in my mind.
Of course. That's what I mean.
So can you open up this seeing of this movement within the mind? I think this is the core of the whole thing, sir. You cannot leave these statements where you leave them.
Bipulji, aren't we leaving that? Let's come back. We talked about freedom from fear, right? Could we start there? Right? We want to discuss the whole movement of fear, not just partial fears, the whole time sequence of fear, right? It begins with desire. Right? It begins with time. It begins with memory. It begins with the fact of the present action or movement of fear, right? All this is involved in the whole river of fear. Either that fear is very, very shallow and dries off, or it is a deep river of great volume of water. Right? We're not discussing the various objects of fear, but fear itself, per se. Right? Can we go on? Right, sir? These gentlemen are very quiet today. What, sir? Now, is it an abstraction, an abstraction of fear we are discussing, or actual fear in my heart, in my mind? You follow it? Is it I am facing the fear, living actually the response, nervous, biological, psychological nature, feeling the entire fear? Or we are discussing abstract fear? I want to be clear on this point. If we are discussing abstract fear, it has no meaning to me. You may have it for you, it has no meaning to me. Because we are dealing with an actuality. And what is happening is actuality. And if you say, well, I'll make an abstraction of it and discuss that, it has no meaning. I don't know if you're following me. So I'm concerned only with the actual happening of fear. And I say, in that fear, all this is involved. Desire, and the very complex of desire, complexity of desire, time, the past impinging on the present, and this sense of wanting to go beyond fear. All this must be discussed. I don't know if you want to, I will. So we have to take one, like one drop of rain contains all the rivers in the world. Right? the beauty of that. One drop of rain. So one drop of desire contains the whole movement of fear. Should we go? Yes. Yes, if you're bored, tell me. Right, sir? So what is desire? Why do we suppress it? Or why do we give it such tremendous importance? I want to be the minister, and my desire is for that. Or my desire is for God. Same, it's the same. You know, my desire to be minister and my desire for God are the same, because desire is the same. I don't know if I make. So, I have to understand at depth what is desire. Why desire drives man. Why desire has been, on all the religions, suppressed. Lord, I want somebody. Huh? You want me to go? I'm getting bored with this. One asks, what is the place of desire? And if why the brain is consumed with desire. So I have to understand it not only non-verbally in explanation and communication, but also I have to understand it at its deepest level, in my guts, if I can use that word, without being impolite. What is the place of thought in desire? Is desire different from thought? Or thought plays an important part in desire? Or desire is the movement of thought, thought is the movement of desire? You follow, sir? Is thought part of desire, or thought dominates desire? Thought controls desire, shapes desire. So I'm asking, is thought and desire like two horses running together? And thought controlling the two horses, which is still thought. You follow? Am I going on all right? Right, sir? So I must understand not only thought, the whole movement of thinking, the origin of thought, not the end of thought, the beginning of thought. Can the mind be aware of the beginning of thought, and also of the beginning of desire. Right? So I have to go into the question, what is desire and what is thought? Desire, very simply put, forgive me for using ordinary words, not technical words. Desire, first there is perception, contact, sensation. I see you in that dress, color, contact with that color, touch it, out of that touching sensation. This is what's happening all the time. Then thought says, how nice if I had that color on me. So thought creates the image. At that moment, desire is born. That is, I see that blue shirt in the window, I go inside and touch the texture, then out of that touching there is sensation. Then thought says, how nice it would be if I put on that blue shirt. The creation by thought of the image of that shirt on me is the beginning of desire, not perception, contact, sensation. Right? Right, sir? Please.
The example you gave, could you, the example you said, you feel in the guts, and I think that was a very, very good image, because that's where, to me, desire resides. You are hungry, that's where hunger, and that's where the desire for food starts. What about when in the guts there is hunger for love or for food, and there's no objects yet? How does this sequence go? Of desire.
There is hunger for love.
Or for food.
You see, there is an equation which says hunger for food, which is hunger for food, which is the same as the hunger for love. Did you say that?
No. I said this, or hunger, that guts was a good image. But what desire which starts from the guts and not from you're seeing something?
In a sense, without the object.
When the guts are empty.
So, sir, is desire love? Is pleasure love? So you can't hunger after love. As you hunger for power,
can't you hunger for love?
So I've seen love addicts also.
I can, look, what am I when we are using the word love? Just let that wind play with itself. We are introducing a word like love. Love has become sex. Love has become love of my country, love of an ideal, love of my something or other. It's become a very common word and almost trodden upon. But so I want to find out what you mean by love. What you mean by love. Is it an abstraction?
There is an ache.
To be loved.
There is an ache, which is an emptiness in which out of that emptiness comes an ache for something.
The want of something.
The want of something.
We are going off, aren't we, a little bit? Aren't we, sir? We are talking, or rather discussing, what is desire. Not what love is, or the hunger for love. Could we leave that for the moment?
Yes, I also, that was really not. My point was only of giving example of a want arising from inside in the guts, and the hunger for food, we can take food, the desire, how does that sequence go?
Surely, hunger for love, hunger for food is natural, healthy. Right? Hunger for what? Ambition? Hunger for position, status? Is that natural?
Often one sees that they are the same, that the hunger for position in many people, which one knows, is really hunger for food. That is the masks of that hunger for food can take, or hunger for love,
sir,
which are natural, can
hardly
take.
that can be compared the two.
Right.
Hunger for food is natural biological instinct. Right? Is competition, which is destroying the world, is that natural? Or we have the Eskimos, the Eskimos never knew competition. Till the Americans introduced that word to them by racing dogs. You understand? So we cannot call it instinctive. It's probably carefully cultivated. So we must go through this. We understand desire, how it arises. Not verbally or ideologically, I see it in myself, this process takes place, where thought creates the image and desire begins. So, next is time. Is time a movement of thought? There is time, day. Sun rises, sun sets at a certain time. Time as the past, the present, and the future. Time as the past modifying itself, becoming the future. Physically. Time as covering a distance. Time as learning a language, a skill. So there is that type of time. There is the whole psychological time. I have been, I will be, I am. That's a movement of the past through the present, future. Time as acquiring knowledge through experience, memory, thought, action. That's also time. I don't know if you're... No, don't agree. You have to see this yourself inwardly, otherwise it has no meaning, just a lot of words. So there's that psychological time and physical time. Is there psychological time at all? Or thought as hope created time? I don't know if you follow. So, I'm questioning whether there is psychological time at all. That is, I am violent, I will be violent, non-violent. And I realize that process can never end violence. So what will end violence is confronting the fact and remaining with it. Not try to dodge it and escape from it and play hypocrite about it. So there is no opposite, only what is. Right, sir? May I go on? And thinking, what is thinking? Why have man given such tremendous importance to the intellect, to words, theories, ideas? Which is, unless I discover what is the origin of thinking, how it begins, can there be awareness of thought arising? Or aware after it's arisen, you know. That is there an awareness of the movement of the whole river of thought? And thought has become extraordinarily important. All the inventions, the religious, political, economic, thought is, I won't go into it, it's so obvious. Thought exists because there is memory, knowledge, experience. Experience, knowledge, stored up in the brain as memory. From that memory there is thought and action. In this process we live, always within the field of the known. So desire, time, thought, is essentially fear. Without these, there is no fear. So, I am afraid inwardly, and I want order out there in society, in politics, in economy. You follow, sir? How can there be order out there if I'm disorder in here? Do we discuss further?
getting to half 20 past.
I would like to ask for a clarification. If fear is the consequence of experience, of thought, of knowledge,
I said all that, sir.
a state, if I can use the phrase, of not being afraid or of fearlessness or the non-existence of fear in me, then can only be an instantaneous flash of awareness. What the medieval scholars would call a fulguratio.
Sir, I'm afraid of death.
How do I bring my children up, sir? How do I bring my children up?
How do I bring my children up? You see, what Ravi Mathai is saying is that all these aspects of fear within us, there is only in a flash that we are free of it.
Of course.
How then do I bring up my children?
Huh?
How then do I bring up my children?
That's the question. How do I bring up my son and daughter not to be afraid? Is that it? By having no competition first. In the school there is this competition. College competition. If he is lucky to go to university, there is competition. Exams are a most deadly, frightening things. Right? Oh, that is a very complex question.
Now,
how to bring
sir,
up
the
my
question
child.
is, it's getting to 11:30. There are many problems of sorrow, death, meditation, this movement out of this groove of wooding. People like to discuss that, in which case we have a meeting this afternoon.
Ask them, I'm willing.
I would like to know whether between 4 and 5:30 you would like a meeting this afternoon. I would like the participants to tell me. Krishnaji is prepared to, between 4 and 5:30, to go into these various problems.
Personally, Prabhu, I have the physical limitation of having to catch a plane.
You're going away. But what about the rest? Would they be willing and happy to come? Then we will request Krishnaji to speak to us between 4 and 5:30.
From 4 to 5:30?
Yes.
This afternoon?
This afternoon.
Do you want it, sir? I don't know. C'est à vous, or I mean...
Huh? Very difficult. But there would be still a number of people who would be not down. 4 to 5:30. Those of us who can come are most welcome to come. 4 to 5:30.
Could I make a point?
Yes,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think we moved quite a distance. I mean, quite a lot of ground. But I would like to relate some of the issues, especially with one set of issues between you and Sudhir Kakkar, but another between you and what Panditji has raised, which I hope can be taken up in the afternoon. But I'll take up this last point that you made. How can I bring order outside if there is disorder in me? I think you could reverse the question. Can I bring order in if there is disorder out there? And I'm deliberately posing it in this manner because probably the source of some, not confusion, but some diffusion in the discussion lay in your early dichotomy between the inward and the outward. That the outward, the computer on the one hand and the atom bomb on the other, is taking over. So I should either allow myself to be entertained more and more, and that's where future of man is, or I go inside, not in any ecclesiastical or traditional sense, but discover my freedom more and more. And I think what Panditji was trying to bring us back to was the point that I cannot realize that freedom, including the inner recesses of mind, without relating myself to that outside where dukh is, where there is so much unhappiness, where there is so much turmoil, where there is violence. And any attempt to understand the process of freedom without relating the inward and the outward.
Have I understood the question rightly?
Go ahead, please.
I'm just asking
Yeah.
that you are saying the division between the outer and the inner is false.
Yeah, for me, yes.
I say I agree with you.
Well, but then
It's a movement like a tide, going out and coming in, going out and coming in.
yeah.
So that what is outside is me is the outside.
Yeah, but then one has to contend with the computer and the atom bomb and intervene in that process also for the realization of it. You cannot simply say that I am going to hand over the outside. But the outside is no, I'm not saying you are saying it. I'm saying this issue has to be squarely faced. That in the decision about the choices regarding the future of man, the shaping of that by modern science and technology and all that in the manner in which you posed it, and posed it very succinctly, what is the process of my gaining my freedom not inherently textured into that outside world? This was in fact the issue that Panditji was trying to raise about. He raised it in terms of the unhappiness and suffering outside. But I would extend it to even things like the computer and the system of violence and of manipulation, to which you often refer. And I hope the afternoon you could take up some of this.
Sure.
I'll try and come, but I'm not
just
sure if I can.
The outer is a movement of the inner. The inner is the movement of the outer. There is no dichotomy at all. Right? That's what but by understanding the outer and that is the criterion which will guide me to the inner, so that there is no deception. Because I don't want to be deceived at the end of the circus. Right, sir? So, the outer is the indicator of the inner, and the inner is the indicator of the outer. There is no difference as far as I am concerned. My part is not to put away the outer. Actually, I am responsible for that. I am responsible for everything that's happening in the world. Because my brain is not my brain, it's the brain of humanity, which has grown through thousands of years. I like to think it's my brain, but it's not. So, if my brain is functioning in a very narrow circle, I'm emphasizing the division. But my brain is the brain of humanity, which has grown through the evolution, all the rest of it. So, there is the responsibility, politically, really, all along the line. If the man who flies from Bombay to Delhi, if he felt responsible, you won't be late arriving at Delhi. None of us feel this responsibility. We're all responsible for little family, little this and little that.
Well, if you agree with that, then I think the next question would be, what is the process of freedom in that overall context? And yesterday's question, namely the relationship between what you have broadly called thought and experience and consciousness. See, I think unless the yesterday's and today's are linked, you would be missing a lot.
That's very simple. That's very simple.
And whether the whole of humanity and the experience of that whole of humanity offers any choices, or we take the 2,500 years as really a homogeneous total that we should transcend and somehow make a leap. These are questions very difficult to interrelate, but I think they are part of the same problem of freedom that we are discussing.
Do I answer him now or wait?
May I add a question which you might like to take together with this? I think we got distracted somewhat from our concern earlier in the morning with suffering, and essentially Rajni's question relates to that too. And I think one of the problems is this, that we have not distinguished clearly between two kinds of suffering. One is what you might call unavoidable suffering or necessary suffering. Fear of death, for instance. When you talk of fear, there's fear of death. Now that is a human situation, human predicament. We have lived with it for 25,000 years as human beings, and before that, earlier as animals. And the awareness, self-aware animal is afraid of death. We have to learn to live with it. We can transcend it, some can, but some cannot. But there is another major kind of suffering in the world which you can call unnecessary suffering. Suffering created by men, created by human institutions and organizations.
Yes, sir.
And unless we take care very consciously to divide and separate these two kinds of suffering and attack the second kind of suffering, the man-created suffering, we in a deep sense cannot come to grips with the first kind of suffering.
War is unnecessary suffering. Yes. What position?
The position that there are two kinds of suffering.
No, I don't. There is only
that's why I'm
suffering.
asking you. I would like to ask you whether you would accept the position that there are two kinds of suffering. One suffering which is inevitable, like the fear of death.
I don't
Please
accept
listen,
it.
sir. And the other suffering which is made up of man-made maneuverings, so that people are put into positions of want and...
Do we discuss it now?
No, it's a very big question.
Yeah, I know.
It's a very big question.
I know.
And I thought, you'd have to go into it in very great detail. It's after all the crux and root of the human mind.
Of course.
Set of questions.
No,
Very
that's if
interesting.
you're going to do. This afternoon, 4 to 5:30. But if he start,
Going away, I haven't heard at all.
Rinpoche ji, yes,
Swami also might say a few words.
Rinpoche ji, आप कुछ कहिएगा फिर जो
And also
चिदानंद.
I don't know what I should say. We are discussing a problem round and round. Sometimes we get quite near to a point, but we just escape away. As far as I understand, we always keeping in mind of our condition, our unconditioned concepts, which we are not in any case ready to give up, even in the process of discussion also. So by this way, our discussion always come to an end when which touches our conditioned conceptions or thoughts. Then again we try to clarify it, but again it goes away. For example, the freedom from fear. But we talk of the freedom through a process of unfree mind. The process of unfree mind makes a very narrow scope or very narrow ground through which we could describe or observe or see the freeness. We trying to describe the freeness through a conditioned or limited word, which is only capable our thought could perceive or image. So here I find it very difficult to understand Krishnaji and also to have a direct dialogue. So I would request you, sir, to open up furthermore.
Yes, sir.
And don't just leave us in your cross questions. And I think you could speak on our level, which our mind, our conditioned mind, could understand you.
If Swamiji would say something.
Beloved brethren in the spirit, if you want me to speak frankly, I came here mainly to have darshan of Swami Sri Krishna, Krishnamurtiji Maharaj, and with no other intention. Neither to speak nor to listen, but to sit beside him and just be. And just feel him inside and just be. And so as far as I am concerned, I am fully satisfied, 110% satisfied, feel myself greatly blessed and feel a joy which I cannot express. And if you still want me to say a few things, I can only say, as Maharaj himself has several times stated, let us face facts. And the fact is, whether we want to accept it or not, whether we want to perceive it or not, whether we exist in it or not, fact is going to remain. And the fact is, in this world, there is multifarity. I steer very clearly out of this rather controversial words like duality and conflict and contradiction and all that. I steer clear of it. There are many things in this world, as there are many people sitting here. There is multifarity. And definitely there is apparently no unity. Apparently there is no unity. And so we have to live with the fact of multifarity. And in this multifarity, part and parcel of this multifarity is a beautiful blend of dualities also, without which we cannot exist. They are necessary. And therefore, with this fact, let us start all processes, all action, all thinking, all feeling, all reacting, all whatever life means. Maybe it means all of these things. And seeing the fact of us and seeing the fact of this multifarity which we call the world, let us try to make our response to this situation a response which would constitute a manner of living, manner of being and living that we would desire life to extend towards us. As we live, we want life to be to us and towards us in this manner, in this manner, in this manner, and not in this manner, and not in this manner, and not in this manner. And so that which the spirit within us says, I don't want it, let us not make a life process as giving such a thing to another. It may be a mosquito, it may be a flea, it may be a worm, it may be a man, it may be anyone. And deep within us, the spirit says, let life mean to me this. And let us make our life a means and a process of giving unto life around us that only. If we say, I want to be happy, I want to be comfortable, let us live in order to make life around us happy, life around us comfortable, life around us less painful. And something within us keeps telling us, I do not want to shiver in the cold in winter without a blanket, without a place to lie in. I do not want to be experiencing the pangs of hunger. And I do not want to be sick and ill and not have anyone to care for me and do something to make me well. And if that is so, let us be a center of a life which brings to life around us maybe cold, warmth where there is cold, and nourishing, good, satisfying food where there is hunger, and maybe sympathy and a healing hand where there is disease, pain, suffering. I believe if we make our life this, we have lived not in vain. Life would have been lived. That is all I have to say. And yet I